Hey there, folks. The number one Maruja fan from the Infinite Jukebox here with another quick EP review, and today I wanted to talk about the new Maruja EP, Connla's Well. There is an argument to be made that the Manchester-formed band Maruja are one of the most hyped up-and-coming sort of experimental, artsy, punk rock bands out there right now in the past couple of years. I mean, after 2023's Knocknaray EP, one of the best EPs of last year by far, ended up putting them on the map within a lot of nerd circles, within a lot of alternative circles. The group are here now, and they return with the follow-up EP, Connla's Well, a record that I honestly think manages to even outdo the one that came before it, further proving that this band is truly doing something fantastic right now. I would say that as they continue leaning into a lot of the more experimental and jazz-influenced side of their influences here on this EP, you get some sounds from Maruja that continue to prove them as a band that's capable of creating the impact of a full-length LP within the context of a relatively brief EP, which is something that's kind of hard to come across, honestly. I'm not really an EP person. I don't really cover them on the channel a lot because I just like my full-length albums a little bit better. But I'll be damned if this band is not capable of blowing me away in their best moments in the same way that a full-length studio album can. There are actually times where Connla's Well feels maybe a little bit more deeply involved with some of the jazz influences that Maruja have taken up in the past than anything else that they've done before, which I think is something nice to see, and that can especially be heard in the first and final moments of the entirety of this EP. The album opening title track is this very cool and atmospheric sort of jazz-based number that kind of gets things ready, kind of builds things up as it prepares to actively descend into the mania that it eventually becomes, while the album closer, Resisting Resistance, has this nearly cinematic feel that I think is more dramatic in its own entire length than most records are in the entirety of their track list. Both of the aforementioned tracks are kind of more structured around jazz, or at least jazz-based influences at the very least, and they don't really have a huge connection to the more punkish side of Maruja's influences, and I personally think that was a great choice to make from a creative perspective. I think that they add a lot to the atmosphere of the record, and like I said, the final moments of the album in particular feel like a really excellent come down from the midsection of the EP, which again embraces the more abrasive side of the band's various different influences, and I love those moments as well. I think this record is actually some of the most intense material that we've ever gotten from them. And in particular, I say that because I really do feel like even in those particularly abrasive moments, every single member of Maruja gets the chance to stand out in some degree or another, whether you're looking for Harry Wilkinson's nearly deranged vocal performance on the track The Invisible Man, which is maybe the single best song that they've put out to date, the deep and powerful bass line or the explosive percussion that Matt Buonacorsi and Jacob Hayes provide on the track One Hand Behind the Devil, or even Joe Carroll's sort of free jazz-inspired saxophone licks in the sort of back half of the track Zeitgeist. You get some of the most powerful, some of the most energized performances that we've ever seen from this band, while at the same time some of the most well-composed and thoughtful material that we also, again, have ever gotten from them. It's a high of highs at this point for Maruja, at this point in their career anyway. Considering their trajectory right now, I'm sure that they'll continue to outdo themselves, but at this moment, some of the greatest work that we've gotten from any member of this band is found here in these handful of tracks. I mean, it's an EP, it's 5 tracks, there's not really a ton to say about it in turn, but at the same time, I will say this, I do think it's kind of universally agreed upon, to an extent at least, that if Maruja were ever to put out a full-length studio album, it would probably just totally obliterate, annihilate, melt, whatever you want to say, the brains of music nerds across websites like rateyourmusic.com, and I think this EP further proves that, because very few full-length records are able to create the same kind of atmospherics, the same kind of dramaticism, the same kind of explosive build-ups that you get here on this EP across 5 tracks. It feels like this shouldn't work as well as it does, but if anything, Maruja have proven that they are more than capable of taking a very brief kind of concept and turning it into something that feels larger than life, which is something that I feel is a pretty major appeal of them as a band at the moment. So yeah, until the time comes that Maruja do put out a full-length studio album, if that time ever does come, of course, I will say that I think it's hard to not be moved by an EP like Connla's Well that feels so compact and easily accessible from a length perspective, yet at the same time so expansive in terms of how it's executed. Really easily one of the best EPs of the year by far. I'm going to give this record 4 stars out of 5. With that being said, that is the end of this EP review. Thank you for watching the Infinite Jukebox, and I will see you in the next one.